Kai walked through the bustling alien market, his boots crunching against the crystalline ground. Loreth 9 was a world of colors he had never seen before. Towers of glowing crystals rose like trees, and strange creatures of all shapes and sizes moved through the crowds. Tentacled merchants called out in languages that twisted in the air like ribbons. Humans were rare here, and Kai knew that his presence drew more eyes than he wanted. His stomach growled. The journey across the frontier had been long, and his small crew was running out of proper food. They had survived on rations for days, and the thought of another synthetic meal made him shiver. "I need meat," he muttered to himself. "Something fresh, something real." Kai's voice grew louder, and soon he was shouting across the market. "I need meat, real meat. Something alive, something strong." The aliens turned their heads, their glowing eyes reflecting his words. Some whispered to each other, their voices like 1,000 tiny chimes. They were amused. Humans, they knew, were strange creatures, and his demand seemed ridiculous in their eyes. Then the crowd parted. Kai saw the tallest merchant step forward, a being with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like polished bronze. The merchant's eyes glowed faintly green, and his mouth opened in a sound Kai could not recognize. In a smooth, cold voice, he said, "You asked for meat. We will give you meat. The finest you can have." Kai expected cages or crates, something wriggling, something he could gut and cook. Instead, he froze. Standing there, framed by the glowing crystals of the market, was a girl. She was small, no taller than Kai's chest, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Her hair flowed around her shoulders like strands of light, and her eyes, large, violet, and luminous, looked directly at him. Kai's heart stopped. He could not believe what he was seeing. She blinked slowly, almost shyly, and stepped forward. Every instinct in him screamed that this was wrong. This was not meat. This was a living being. The merchant smiled. "She is the offering. She is fresh. She is fine. You wanted meat, yes?" His words were careful, polite, but Kai could feel the weight behind them. They were waiting for his reaction. Kai swallowed hard. He looked around. The crowd had grown silent. Every alien in the market was watching him. Their expressions were unreadable, but he knew their amusement was thinly veiled. In their culture, offering a living being was a gift, a test, or even a challenge. They wanted to see how he, a human, would respond. The girl took a hesitant step forward. She looked fragile, yet there was something in her gaze, curiosity, perhaps, or courage. She was trembling slightly, but she did not run. Her small hand moved to her chest, as if unsure of what would happen next. Kai's mind raced. Could he refuse? Could he walk away and leave her here? The thought made his stomach twist. He had survived countless dangers in the frontier, but this was different. This was not a battle he could fight with weapons. This was a choice, and the wrong choice could cost her life for his. He knelt slightly to meet her eyes. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly, almost without thinking. "I'm not going to hurt you." The words felt strange in his mouth, not just because of the situation, but because for the first time in weeks, he felt something other than hunger or survival. Something warm and human stirred inside him. The merchant watched quietly. His multiple mouths moved as if holding back laughter, or maybe a warning. "You must decide," he said. "She is yours if you accept." Kai looked back at the girl. She was alive. She was breathing, thinking, and looking at him like she trusted him even. though she did not know him. His hand itched to reach out, to touch her, to assure her that he would protect her. He could feel the eyes of the entire market on him, but he ignored them. Finally, he took a deep breath. I won't hurt you," he whispered again. And then, almost instinctively, he stepped forward, placing himself between her and the merchant. His choice was made. He didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear. He could not treat her as meat. Not now, not ever. The market held its breath. The first move had been made, and the story was only beginning. Kai took a cautious step forward, keeping his hands visible. The girl Lyra, as she later whispered, her name hesitated, but did not step back. Her violet eyes were wide and curious, yet fear lingered in their depths. The merchants behind them remained silent, their multiple eyes glinting with unreadable emotion. Kai crouched low, far enough not to appear threatening, and spoke gently. "I'm Kai, I won't hurt you. You're safe with me." His voice was soft but firm, like a promise. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. She spoke a strange, musical word that Kai couldn't understand. He shook his head slowly, then held out his hand not to grab her, just to show trust. After a long pause, she reached out. Her fingers were delicate, cold, almost weightless in his hand. Kai felt a jolt of emotion he had not expected. It was strange to realize that someone so different from him could feel so human. The crowd of aliens seemed to hold its breath, watching the first connection form between human and alien. The merchants finally spoke, their voice like a warning. "She is no longer food," one said. "She is your responsibility now. Choose wisely." Kai nodded. He did not need to be told. He already knew. He could not leave her here. The thought of turning his back on this small, fragile life made his stomach churn. He had survived wars, storms, and starvation, but nothing had ever felt as urgent as protecting her. He motioned for Lyra to follow him. She hesitated for only a moment before stepping carefully behind him. As they moved through the glowing streets of the market, Kai noticed how she studied everything, the shapes, the colors, the strange creatures moving past them. She was curious, intelligent, and more aware than most humans he had met. Kai found a small, quiet corner of the market. He offered her some of the dried rations from his pack. Lyra stared at the food for a long moment, then cautiously tasted it. Her face lit up with a soft smile, the first real expression of trust. Kai smiled back, feeling warmth spread through his chest. In that moment, he realized that this was no longer just a survival matter. He had someone to care for. They sat together in silence for a while. Lyra's skin shimmered faintly in the market lights, and her hair flowed like liquid silver around her shoulders. She spoke in her soft, musical voice, pointing to her chest, then to Kai's, trying to communicate. Kai chuckled softly. "You want to know me," he said. "I can tell. I'll try to teach you." Days passed, and Kai began to learn small things about her. She had been trained to survive in harsh conditions, knew about edible plants, and understood basic mechanics of her world. In return, he taught her words in common, simple phrases, and how to trust humans. Slowly, a bond formed. Kai felt his heart lighten in ways he had not expected. Protecting her was no longer a burden, it was a purpose. Yet danger loomed. Other traders watched them with interest, whispering among themselves. Some saw a chance for profit. Others, a test of their own power. The frontier was unforgiving, and news spread fast. Kai realized that keeping Lyra safe would not be easy. Every step they took could be observed, judged, or challenged. One evening, as the twin suns set over the crystal towers, Kai and Lyra sat atop a small ledge overlooking the market. She leaned against him, her small body trembling slightly. Kai wrapped an arm around her, unsure if she understood the gesture. "You're safe," he whispered. "I'll keep you safe. No one will take you from me." Lyra pressed her head closer and whispered a word he didn't understand. Still, the meaning was clear: trust. Kai's chest tightened. He had not expected this level of connection, this level of responsibility, but he would not turn away. Not now, not ever. For the first time in his life, Kai felt a warmth that was not from food, not from fire, not from survival, but from the fragile living being who had become his world. And somewhere deep inside, he knew the market, the merchants, and the galaxy itself had just witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary, a bond that could change everything, human and alien alike. The next morning, the market felt different. The whispers were louder, the eyes of alien merchants sharper. Kai noticed subtle glances as he moved through the streets with Lyra at his side. She held his hand tightly now, trusting him completely, but still alert to every movement around them. Kai's crew had arrived to check on him. "Kai, what are you doing?" His first mate Joran hissed as he pulled him aside. "You can't just take an alien like that. We're not on Earth, we don't know what these creatures want. You're putting all of us in danger." Kai shook his head, refusing to let his frustration show. "She's not just something to be traded or eaten," he said firmly. "She's alive. She trusts me, and I won't abandon her." Joran's face hardened. "You're risking everything. The merchants won't let this go. They'll come back, and when they do, we'll be ready for a fight. You think the humans here care about your moral choice?" Kai's jaw tightened. He knew Joran was right. The frontier was brutal. Honor and survival often came at the cost of mercy. But something inside him, a stubborn, human spark, refused to yield. He looked down at Lyra. Her small hand squeezed his, and he felt a responsibility so deep it hurt. She had become more than a companion. She was his purpose. As if on cue, a group of alien merchants approached. Their eyes glowed faintly red, and their mouths opened in unison. "She is our gift. You cannot keep her. Return her now," one said, voice low and threatening. Kai stepped forward, placing himself between Lyra and the group. "She's not a gift. She's alive, and she belongs with me, not with you." His voice was calm, but there was a steel underneath that the aliens did not expect from a human. A murmur ran through the crowd. The merchants looked amused at first, then wary. They had underestimated him. They had expected fear, hesitation, or anger, but not this quiet determination. Lyra, though scared, stood beside Kai. She looked at the aliens with wide eyes, but did not retreat. She spoke softly in her melodic language, and Kai realized she was trying to communicate something important. He nodded at her, silently promising that she was safe. The confrontation escalated. One of the merchants lunged forward, testing Kai's resolve. Kai sidestepped, holding up a small energy shield from his pack, just enough to show that he was ready to defend her. Joran and the crew moved to flank him, preparing for what could become a violent clash. "You will not take her," Kai said, voice rising. "If you do, you will regret it." The aliens hesitated. Humans were unpredictable creatures. They were fragile, yes, but their courage, especially when protecting life, was something the merchants could not measure. After a tense silence, the lead merchant nodded slowly. "You are different," he said. "Humans are strange. We will watch, for now. But she is not yours forever." Kai exhaled slowly, tension leaving his shoulders. The immediate danger had passed, but he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had taken notice, and not all attention would be friendly. Later that evening, Kai and Lyra returned to their small shelter. Lyra sat close, her hand brushing against his arm. "You protected me," she said, her voice trembling but filled with awe. Kai smiled faintly. "I will always protect you," he said simply. "No matter what." Lyra's eyes shone. She had never known safety like this, never known a being who would fight for her life simply because it mattered. And Kai, for the first time in years, felt the weight of responsibility not as a burden, but as something sacred, as the twin suns set over Lyra, casting long shadows across the crystalline towers. Kai realized that the frontier was changing, not just for him, but for everyone around. A human had chosen mercy over fear, trust over caution. And in a galaxy where survival often meant taking life, that choice was extraordinary. For the first time, Kai felt the quiet stirrings of hope that perhaps, one day, humanity's courage and compassion could carve a place in even the coldest reaches of the stars. Days passed on Lyra, and the market's whispers slowly faded, though Kai knew the eyes of the merchants and traders still followed him. He moved through the glowing streets with Lyra at his side, feeling the strange warmth of companionship that had settled into his chest. It was a feeling he had not known in years: trust, connection, and a quiet sense of purpose. Lyra had begun to learn a few words in common, though her voice carried the musical cadence of her own language. She repeated simple phrases carefully, her violet eyes wide with concentration. "Kai, friend," she asked one morning, pointing to herself and then to him. Kai smiled, crouching down so they were level. "Yes, Lyra, friend," he said, his voice gentle. "You are my friend." Her face lit up in a shy smile, the corners of her shimmering mouth curling upward. Their days fell into a rhythm. Kai taught her about humans, their ways, their food, the strange customs of Earth that seemed so different from Lyra. He showed her how to cook the simplest meals, how to ration food, and even how to make small tools from scraps. Lyra watched closely, her hands moving with delicate precision. She asked questions, countless questions about everything from human hearts to alien stars, and Kai answered them as best he could. In return, Lyra shared her world. She showed him plants that glowed in the dark, insects that communicated in pulses of light, and small crystal formations that contained water inside. Kai listened with awe. Her knowledge was vast, her curiosity endless. Every time she spoke of her home, her voice held a longing, a gentle sadness for a world she could not fully share with him. One evening, as the twin suns dipped behind the crystal towers, Kai found them sitting together on a ledge overlooking the market. Lyra's legs swung back and forth nervously, and Kai noticed she was quieter than usual. "What is it?" he asked softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes shimmering with uncertainty. She spoke in her melodic language, and though Kai could not understand the words, the tone was clear. She was scared. He nodded, reassuring her with a gentle squeeze. "I don't understand the words, but I understand you," he he said. I'm here. You're safe. She leaned closer, pressing her head to his shoulder. Kai felt a warmth bloom in his chest, a feeling stronger than hunger, stronger than fear. It was the purest form of trust to life depending on him, and him willing to give everything to protect it. Yet, danger was never far away. Small traders whispered in dark alleys, watching them. Some aliens still questioned the human's strange compassion, unable to comprehend why he would risk so much for someone who was not his own species. Kai could feel their scrutiny like a weight on his back. But every time he looked at Lyra, her curious eyes and soft smile reminded him why he could not back down. Kai also noticed that Lyra had her own ways of helping him. She guided him through hidden paths in the market, warned him of suspicious figures, and even mimicked alien gestures to confuse potential threats. Though small, she was clever and resourceful, and Kai could not help but admire her courage. One night, after a long day of exploring and learning, Kai looked at her sitting beside the small fire they had built. Her face glowed with soft silver light, reflecting the flames. Lyra, he said softly, you've changed my life. I've survived wars and storms, but nothing compares to having you here with me. Lyra's lips curved into a tiny, shy smile. She reached out and took his hand in hers, a small, deliberate gesture. Kai felt a jolt of emotion. It was more than trust. Now it was a bond deeper than friendship, an unspoken promise that they would face the galaxy together, no matter what came. As the twin moons rose over the crystalline towers, casting pale light across the market, Kai knew one truth. He could fight armies, survive storms, and explore the deadliest worlds. But protecting Lyra, guiding her, and sharing life with her had become the most important mission of all. And he would not fail. Kai woke before dawn, the twin suns barely peeking over the crystalline towers. Lyra was already awake, her violet eyes watching him carefully. She had grown used to the quiet mornings and to his presence beside her. The market was still asleep, the streets empty except for the faint hum of alien machinery and distant calls of early traders. Their peace, however, was fragile. Kai knew it. The merchants who had first offered Lyra as meat were still out there, watching, waiting. And he could sense that their patience was running thin. By mid-morning, the warning came. A group of the tallest merchants appeared at the edge of the market, their multiple eyes glowing bright red. They moved with a deliberate, slow precision, their intent clear. This was no casual visit. Kai positioned himself in front of Lyra. "Stay behind me," he whispered. Lyra nodded, clutching his hand tightly. Her trust was complete, but she still relied on him to guide her. The lead merchant spoke, his voice low and menacing. "You have taken what is ours. We gave you a gift, and you have refused to honor it. The girl is not yours. Return her, or face consequences." Kai's jaw tightened. He felt the weight of the frontier pressing down on him. Every instinct screamed caution, but every thought of Lyra made him stand firm. "She is not a gift," he said calmly, though his voice carried steel. "She is alive. She is my responsibility. I will not let you take her." A ripple of whispers ran through the crowd that had gathered. Some humans and aliens alike watched, curious and wary. The tension in the air was thick enough to taste. The merchants' faces, if such expressions could be called that, showed a mix of anger and surprise. They had expected fear, submission, or perhaps negotiation. They had not expected defiance. One of the merchants stepped closer, gesturing toward Lyra. "You cannot protect her forever. You are weak. One misstep, and she is ours." Kai shook his head, feeling the surge of determination he had come to rely on. He would not be intimidated. He glanced at Lyra. "Look at me," he said softly. "No matter what happens, I will protect you. We face this together." Lyra's violet eyes shone with resolve. She stepped slightly closer to him, placing a small, comforting hand on his arm. It was a gesture of courage, almost defiant. For the first time, Kai felt the full force of their bond, not just trust, but mutual strength. The standoff lasted for what felt like hours. The merchants were patient, cunning, and unrelenting. They tried threats, subtle intimidation, and even bribes, offering Kai wealth beyond imagining if he would simply return her. Each offer, each warning, only strengthened his resolve. Finally, the lead merchant stepped back, his posture stiff but measured. "You are unusual," he said slowly. "A human who values life above all else. We will leave for now. But know this, the galaxy is not kind to those who defy its rules. Keep the girl, but do not forget. We are watching." With that, the group disappeared into the shimmering streets, leaving the market in an uneasy silence. Kai exhaled slowly, his shoulders sagging with relief. He turned to Lyra, whose trembling had stopped, her small hands gripping his tightly. You were brave," Kai said softly, brushing a strand of her silver hair from her face. "You stayed with me. You trusted me." Lyra looked up at him, a faint smile breaking through her earlier fear. I trust you, Kai," she said simply. The words, though small, carried weight heavier than any weapon. That night, they sat together under the soft glow of the twin moons. Kai thought of the merchant's words, the warning, the threat, the unseen eyes of the galaxy. But for the first time, he felt something stronger than fear. He felt hope. Hope that humanity, even in the cold, indifferent expanse of space, could make a difference. Hope that kindness, courage, and trust could survive. Lyra leaned against him, her small form radiating a quiet warmth. Kai wrapped an arm around her, feeling the steady beat of her life, a fragile but unbreakable rhythm. And as the stars blinked above the crystalline towers, Kai realized the truth he had always known but never fully felt. Protecting her was more than duty, it was destiny. And he would face whatever came next, not as a lone human, but as a guardian, a friend, and a protector of life itself. The following morning, the air in the market was thick with tension. Kai could feel it as he stepped outside their small shelter, Lyra at his side. The twin suns reflected off the crystalline towers, casting long, sharp shadows across the streets. Something was coming. He could sense it by midday. The threat revealed itself. A group of alien merchants, larger and more menacing than before, advanced through the market. Their eyes glowed bright red, and their movements were deliberate, almost predatory. This time, they were not offering a warning, they were coming to take Lyra by force. Kai stepped in front of her, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "Stay behind me, Lyra," he said firmly. "No matter what, I won't let them hurt you." Lyra nodded, her small body trembling but her trust in him unwavering. The aliens moved quickly, and Kai's instincts kicked in. He had faced danger before, but never like this. The market was crowded, but he knew its hidden alleys, secret pathways, and structural weaknesses. Using his knowledge, he guided Lyra through a narrow passage, dodging the first wave of attackers. One merchant lunged at him, tentacles swinging. Kai ducked, rolling to the side, and grabbed a nearby energy trap he had crafted from scraps. With careful aim, he activated it, creating a sudden wall of light that forced the attackers to halt. The glow was blinding, disorienting, and it gave him a precious few seconds to pull Lyra further into safety. Lyra, though frightened, did not falter. She pointed to a narrow overhead passage, communicating in gestures that Kai began to understand. Together they moved with precision, each step calculated, each motion saving precious seconds. Kai marveled at her, courage small but determined, quick thinking and loyal. The merchants regrouped, attempting to block their path, but Kai's strategy was already in motion. He led them into the central market area, where the towers of crystal cast chaotic reflections. Using mirrors and angles, he confused the attackers, making them hesitate, stumble, and misjudge their movements. Human ingenuity, paired with Lyra's knowledge of the alien environment, created a combination the merchants had not expected. Kai's heart pounded, sweat running down his face. He was tired, hungry, and afraid, yet he felt something stronger than fear resolve. He would not lose Lyra. She was more than a life to protect. She was a spark of hope, a symbol of what humanity could achieve even in the cold. In different galaxy, finally, after tense minutes that felt like hours, the lead merchant signaled the retreat. Their glowing eyes dimmed slightly, and with reluctant precision they withdrew into the shadows of the crystalline towers. Their warning hung in the air. They would return. But for now, the battle was over. Kai sank to his knees, breathing heavily. Lyra ran to him, throwing her small arms around his neck. "Kai, you saved me," she whispered, tears glistening in her violet eyes. Kai held her close, feeling the fragile weight of her body against his chest. "I told you I would protect you," he said softly. "No one will take you from me." The words were simple, but the promise behind them carried more strength than any weapon in the galaxy. As night fell, they returned to their shelter, exhausted but alive. Kai tended to small scrapes and bruises, while Lyra watched him carefully, her trust deepening with every gesture. She spoke softly, her melodic voice filled with awe. "Kai, humans, you are strong, not just with weapons, but here," she said, pointing to his chest. Kai smiled faintly, touched by her words. "It's not just strength," he said. "It's caring. Protecting someone even when it's hard, even when the world says you can't. That's what makes us human." That night, as the twin moons rose over the crystalline towers, Kai and Lyra sat together in silence. The market was quiet now, but the memory of the battle lingered. Kai knew that danger would come again, that the galaxy was watching, that their choices carried consequences, but for the first time, he also knew this. No matter how fierce the challenge, no matter how impossible the odds, humanity's courage and heart could stand against anything. And as Lyra rested her head against his shoulder, Kai silently vowed that he would fight for her, for life and for the bond they had forged, no matter the cost.